They survived at the edge of the Arctic for almost 500 years. They built farms, churches, and entire communities beneath Greenland's glaciers. Their ships crossed the North Atlantic, carrying iron, timber, news, and a precious commodity that once made these distant settlements valuable to Europe. But during the 14th century, one settlement fell silent. Then the ships became fewer, the harvests became less reliable, and finally, the written records stopped. The last secure account describes something surprisingly ordinary: a wedding in a stone church in the year 1408. After that, the Norse Greenlanders slowly disappear from history. No report describes a final battle, no document records a great evacuation, and archaeology has revealed no single catastrophe that explains everything. So what happened to the Vikings of Greenland? Did the climate destroy their farms? Did Europe abandon them? Were they struck by disease or conflict? Or did the last families simply pack their belongings, board the final ships, and leave?
Was wir dort unter dem Eis gefunden haben, wird alles verändern.
To understand their disappearance, we must return to the beginning, to a place that was green only along its edges. Around the year 985 or 986, Norse settlers arrived in southwestern Greenland. They were led by Erik the Red, an Icelandic exile searching for new land and a new beginning. The name he gave the island was almost certainly meant to sound inviting: Greenland. And parts of it truly were green. Along sheltered fjords in the south and west, grass grew during the short Arctic summer. There were valleys where animals could graze and where hay could be gathered for the winter. The settlers established two main regions. The eastern settlement lay in the far south, around the fjords near what is now Qaqortoq. The western settlement was located farther north, near present-day Nuuk. Despite their names, both were situated along Greenland's southwestern coast. The Norse built houses from stone and turf. Their thick walls protected families from the wind, while central hearths provided warmth and light. They raised sheep, goats, and cattle. They hunted seals and caribou, fished in the fjords, and traveled north in search of walrus. But survival depended on something far less dramatic: grass. Every summer, enough hay had to be cut, dried, and stored to feed the animals through the long winter. A successful harvest meant milk, meat, wool, and survival. A poor harvest could force a family to slaughter animals that would otherwise have produced food for years. And beneath every decision was the same question: would the grass last until spring? For generations, the answer was often yes. The settlements grew, churches were built, bishops arrived from Europe. Greenland became part of the Christian North Atlantic world. At its height, this was not a temporary outpost. It was a functioning society. But its survival depended on a delicate balance between land, sea, and Europe. Eventually, that balance began to shift. The first warning came from the Western settlement. For centuries, Norse families had lived there on farms scattered along the fjords. Then, during the 14th century, the written and archaeological traces became increasingly scarce. By around the middle of that century, the Western settlement appears to have been abandoned. But the reason remains unclear. There is no convincing evidence of one enormous attack. No single layer of destruction has revealed a settlement consumed by fire. No mass grave has provided evidence of a sudden epidemic or massacre. Instead, the settlement seems to have become silent. Perhaps individual farms were abandoned first. One family may have moved south to relatives in the larger eastern settlement. Another may have left for Iceland. A farm without enough workers could no longer cut sufficient hay. Fewer farms meant fewer neighbors. Fewer neighbors meant less help during harvest, hunting expeditions, and emergencies. The settlement may have reached a point where each departure made the next departure more likely. This would not have looked like an apocalypse. It would have looked like a door that remained closed, a field that was no longer cut, a roof that was not repaired, and one winter, a hearth that was never lit again. Yet the eastern settlement continued. Its people still farmed, hunted, and worshipped in their churches. But the disappearance of the western settlement revealed something important. A Norse community in Greenland could vanish without leaving a clear explanation behind. For a long time, the decline of Norse Greenland was explained mainly by colder temperatures. The medieval warm period ended, the North Atlantic cooled, and conditions associated with the Little Ice Age developed. But cold alone may not tell the whole story. Evidence from the region suggests that conditions around some Norse farming areas also became increasingly dry. For farmers, this could be devastating. Less summer moisture meant poorer grass growth. Poorer grass meant less hay. Less hay meant fewer animals could survive the winter. The Norse were not simply trying to keep themselves warm. They were trying to maintain a livestock economy in a landscape where the growing season was already short. A few difficult summers could be survived. Food could be rationed. More seals could be hunted. Animals could be slaughtered. But repeated shortages slowly consumed a farm's reserves. The archaeological evidence suggests that the Greenland Norse did adapt in some ways. Over time, marine food, particularly seal, became more important in their diet. They were not blindly refusing to change, but adaptation had limits. A farm could not easily function without livestock. Cattle and sheep were not merely sources of food. They were connected to status, wealth, clothing, and the entire structure of Norse society. As the land became less reliable, maintaining that way of life became increasingly expensive. And another slow-moving threat was approaching the farms from the coast: the water itself. The sea was Greenland's connection to the outside world, but it was also a danger. Changes in ice, storms, and sailing conditions could make North Atlantic journeys more difficult and less predictable. At the same time, local relative sea levels rose around parts of southern Greenland. Some low-lying coastal land was gradually flooded or damaged by saltwater. The effect would not have resembled a sudden tidal wave. It was slower. A field became wetter. The ground near a farm became less useful. Water reached places that had once remained dry. Land suitable for grazing or producing hay could be lost. The same sea that threatened the farms also separated Greenland from the supplies it could not produce in sufficient quantities. Timber was needed for buildings and ships. Iron was needed for tools. Churches required equipment and contact with the European religious world. The settlers also depended on news, trade, and the arrival of new people. When ships came, Greenland remained connected to Europe. When they did not, the distance became painfully real. Norway was far away, Iceland was far away, and the route between them could be filled with storms, fog, and drifting ice. Greenland had always been remote. Now that remoteness was becoming isolation. Greenland possessed one export that European traders desired: walrus ivory. During the Middle Ages, walrus tusks could be carved into religious objects, gaming pieces, and luxury goods. The ivory gave Greenland a place within European trade. Norse hunters traveled far north to reach walrus hunting grounds. These expeditions were dangerous, demanding, and time-consuming. The tusks then had to be transported south and shipped across the North Atlantic. In exchange, Greenland received goods that were difficult or impossible to obtain locally. But European markets changed. Other sources of ivory became more available, and the value of Greenland's walrus products may have declined. At the same time, plague, political upheaval, and changing trade networks affected Europe and the North Atlantic. A voyage to Greenland was long and dangerous. If the cargo waiting there was no longer as profitable, fewer merchants had a reason to make the journey. And as trade weakened, the consequences reached far beyond economics. Without regular ships, tools could not easily be replaced. Timber became harder to obtain. Messages traveled slowly, or not at all. Young people had fewer reasons to remain in a settlement with shrinking opportunities. Trade had been Greenland's connection to Europe. Now, that connection was becoming thinner, and eventually, it may have broken. The Norse were not alone in Greenland. The ancestors of today's Inuit moved into the region during the period of Norse settlement. They possessed technologies and knowledge exceptionally well suited to Arctic life. Their clothing provided effective protection from the cold. Their hunting equipment was designed for marine animals. Kayaks and skin boats allowed them to move through coastal waters with remarkable efficiency. The Norse and Inuit almost certainly knew of each other, and there is evidence suggesting some form of contact. But the true nature of their relationship remains uncertain. Was there trade, occasional cooperation, fear and avoidance, or violent conflict? Possibly all of these occurred at different times and in different places. Old accounts mention hostile encounters, but they do not provide enough evidence to explain the disappearance of the entire Norse population. There is no clear proof that the Inuit destroyed the settlements, nor is there convincing evidence that the two societies simply merged into one community. Disease has also been proposed. Epidemics devastated medieval Europe, and an isolated population could have been vulnerable. But Greenland has not produced clear evidence of one epidemic that ended the settlements. Conflict? Possible. Disease? Possible. But neither has been proven as the final answer. The Inuit survived because their society and technology were adapted to Arctic hunting. The Norse also adapted, but they remained connected to a farming culture and a distant European world. As that world moved farther away, the difference became critical. In September 1408, people gathered at Hvalsey Church in the eastern settlement. The church was built from stone. Its walls still stand today. Inside, a wedding took place. The bride was Sigrid Bjornsdottir. The groom was Thorstein Olafsson. There were witnesses, guests, and a priest. For one evening, the church may have been filled with candlelight, conversation, and celebration. This was not a community waiting passively for death. People were still marrying. They were still making plans. They still imagined a future. The wedding became part of the last secure written record from Norse Greenland. The couple later traveled to Iceland, where the event was documented, and then the historical voices from Greenland became quieter. No surviving account describes the last day of the settlement. We do not know who occupied the final farm. We do not know when the final church service was held. And we do not know which ship carried away the last people who chose to leave. The ruins do not reveal panic. Valuable objects were not always abandoned as if their owners had fled within minutes. There is no final message carved into a church wall. Only silence. Perhaps the last generation did not believe that their world was ending. Perhaps they thought they were leaving temporarily. Perhaps they expected another ship to arrive the following summer. But at some point, the grass grew over the paths. Roofs collapsed. The churches stood empty. and the Greenland settlements disappeared from European records. So what happened to Greenland's Norse settlers? There was probably no single cause. Climate pressure, failing harvests, rising water, declining trade, and growing isolation may all have contributed. Some families may simply have left. Their society likely faded farm by farm without a final battle or sudden catastrophe. Today, Hvalsey Church still stands beneath the Greenland sky. The people are gone. Their voices have vanished. Only the stones remain. If you liked this video, you definitely have to watch this one too.